you say that. Now someone's going to hear it. You might hear it. Hmm.
Who knows who's going to hear it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I think I was mentioning to you last night on that the group chat, but yeah, it was not the Hawaiian food. It was like a throat virus gnarly thing. So last week.
Oh, yeah. Well, strangely enough, over here on this side of the Pacific, Shanie's been kind of sick too with something that's been bothering her throat. Don't know what it is.
Yeah, I
It's very
stayed out.
weird.
I actually took 2 days off work for that. So when we were going to do this podcast originally, I was at the doctor's office like a responsible person.
I just know it hasn't hit me yet, but it's probably inevitably going to happen.
I just when that happens, I usually just blame the fact that see, I always get sick on Tuesday, and on Saturday I teach 3-year-olds, so it's like that's usually the connection I'm making. I'm teaching 3-year-olds on
Three
Saturday, and then
day
I'm
incubation. There you
and then
go.
I'm sick exactly, and I'm sick on Tuesday. I'm guessing the kids game because they'll start using like a jungle gym and stuff too. So one kid licked my phone. He's like, show me that image again on your phone because I had just shown the class like food or something, and I showed it to him, and then he licked my phone. One, that's worse for him because phones are like the worst place for everything. It's like you might as well lick a
Oh,
toilet
yeah.
seat over a phone. But yeah, I usually blame like when I did get Corona in 2022, I know exactly who gave it to me, and I still teach her too. But yeah, I know because she lifted up. We were still all masking at the time, and she lifted up my mask and then coughed in my face, and then I had coronavirus.
Why would she do that?
Because she was 4 years old at the
Okay.
time. Now she's like 8. I still teach her, but yeah. Okay, we'll jump on into this one then. If you're ready, I'm ready. Just double checking my trivia because I wrote it a week ago. Here we go. Welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we go through all of the episodes of The Twilight Zone and beyond. I was thinking of a meta joke from Blurryman as I was saying that, but nothing came. I was not inspired, so it did not happen. Maybe we'll do something later. Is Matt here? Ken back over there. It's Brian. How are you?
Hello.
Now
Long time no
you,
zone.
yeah, well, you are key here in that I think everyone that's been on this podcast, myself included, I've done like 5 episodes of this version of Twilight Zone. But you're the guy that kind of knows it, so you're the only one that specifically requested an episode.
No, that's not true actually. I think I only got about halfway through this first season and I lost track of it. And of course, by the time it occurred to me to go back and watch it, Paramount Plus kindly pulled the series from their streaming, so you can't watch it anymore. So I had to go
Okay,
buy the discs.
mine's been on here for a half decade. I'm good.
You're good.
But you were more familiar than most people are like, oh, there was a Twilight Zone made in 2019.
Oh
They
yeah, I was
paid.
I was aware of it. And in fact, when it came to this episode, it's kind of a strange situation where I read something online about an episode that was very meta. And I distinctly remember it said it was in the second season and it discussed things about people coming from other dimensions. And I think whoever wrote that conflated the episode from a few weeks ago, Point of Origin, with this one, the meta episode, right? So they kind of became one story. And I can't find that post anymore. It's now lost in the Twilight Zone too. So I can't even
Maybe we'll get something
prove
in
prove that
season
I'm
two.
not I'm not mad. Or maybe I'm in a new dimension than I was a month ago when I read
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah, season two is a completely unexplored frontier for myself.
me too.
Yeah, that'll be new for most people. But that does make that's why we're doing this one. Obviously, it doesn't quite have the pull of the original, but it's like, well, people don't talk about this one as much, and hey, someone should.
I'm sure someone must have done at some point. I mean, we are, on the tail end of a lot of things that are happening in the streaming world. It's like, oh, okay, there's this one. And then, of course, there's the one from 2002, which I have as well, but I still got to replace this one bad disc.
Ah,
Otherwise, I'm not going to have a complete
well,
set.
I get that completely. I noted that the 2000 series is on YouTube. So for people in, 3 years from now, when we're covering that one, that's probably useful information. And probably less
Yeah.
than that, actually. Probably like, I don't know, a year and a half from now.
I'm just trying to be a completist. I mean, I've got Peele's Twilight Zone. I got Night Gallery still in a box, so we can all dive into that here later
Night
in the
Gallery's
year, I
ready to
assume.
go. Yeah, we'll get into that soon enough. Let me do a little trivia on Blurryman. Episode air date was May 30th, 2019. Simon Kinberg directed. He mostly serves as a producer, having had that role in X-Men Days of Future Past, The Martian, Logan, and the 2015 Fantastic Four, just to throw a turret into an otherwise pristine pool. Um, Sophie Gelson did not actually write this episode. It was, in fact, Alex Rubens, who also wrote a bunch of Community, a bit of Rick and Morty, and has worked with Jordan Peele as a writer on Key and Peele and their movie Keanu. Even Sophie Gelson was not Sophie Gelson. She was Zazie Beetz. You'll find her on the TV show Atlanta, the movie Joker, and playing Domino in Deadpool 2. What's your Deadpool temperature? I feel like Deadpool's a decisive one.
Um, I only saw the first one. It was amusing. I haven't gotten to the second one or to the Wolverine one. Although,
Okay.
strangely enough, I managed to see all the Wolverines at some point. I sat down and watched all of them.
It's entertaining. Honestly, I barely remember anything that happened in that movie, but that seems to be the case for a lot of the more recent Marvel ones. It's like, oh, I think I enjoyed it while I was watching it. Yeah. Betty was played by Betty Gabriel, so I assume she responded very quickly on set to, character name or actor name. She was also in Peele's Get Out and in the bizarrely amusing sci-fi Upgrade.
Mm.
Zibby Allen was Julie, and Caitlin Stryker was Anna. That's about all I've got on them. They've got a few credits here and there. Allen showed up in an episode of The Flash, so that's one where I watched it for two. I got 2.5 seasons in, and then realized we were just going to do the same thing every season and quit. Maybe they stopped doing the same thing every season, but yeah, I took a Christmas break and never came back. Seth Rogen, Jordan Peele, and Jason Priestley all show up. I assume we know who these people are already. Rod Serling took 4 actors. The Blurryman version was David Epstein. Mark Silverman provided the voice. Jefferson Black was the body, and Ryan Hesp was the face. So maybe they tried too hard. Should it
It
take
does
four
seem kind of like
people to do an
overkill.
impression? Just hire Rich Little and have him come do it.
Well, I believe there was a connection with one of those gentlemen with a certain theme park attraction you've mentioned many times.
Yeah, weirdly, the one I never ride. I always ride the non-Twilight Zone version of Tower of Terror.
Yes, you always talk about Tower of Terror and how it's not the Twilight Zone version, but in Japan. But what was it? The voice? Was it Mark who's does the voice on the Tower of Terror? Or was it one of the other guys? I forget the connection.
I think it was the voice guy, but I
Yeah.
would need. I mean, I've done that trivia before. I may be doing that again on this show, but yeah, at the moment, I did not specifically get that for this episode. Before I hit the
Well,
proper record, I was like, I don't know how you're going to do the opening for this, so now we're going to find out.
I'm not sure either. It's kind of a apropos to do it
You just
in a
read what
couple
you have on your
different
screen.
ways.
Yeah.
What I currently have on my screen is the the non-false narration. So it goes like this. Picture, if you will, a storyteller finally getting to tell the story of a lifetime, except the story is one of inexplicable terror and the lifetime of her own. Her name is Sophie Gelson. She has little patience for childish diversions or daydreams, but she won't be able to tune out or turn away from what works blurry in the background of her own show. She is about to learn that when blurry comes into focus, there can be no escape for the fate laid out for her by the Twilight Zone,
By the Twilight, which I guess she's
which is
strolling
how,
into at the end happily. It's like going off into the sunset into the Twilight Zone. Is that how? I mean, I assume people watch this or are not going to if they're listening here. So it's kind of a off into the sunset at the end, except it's like it's
yeah, and that narration is actually done by the Serling guy, by the
right,
blurry man.
right, right.
So it'd
Um,
be like your last chance to pull out your Rod Serling impersonation to do that.
Well, until we get to Night Gallery.
For now.
Also, I never pull out my Rod Serling interpretation. It's very rare I do mine. I make other people do it, right?
It's usually me and Andrew, I noticed.
I think when it was those '60s Twilight Zone, like I think everyone like would put on just at least a little bit of stank to try and go in that particular vocal zone, the vocal zone. Um, by definition, is the Twilight Zone kind of already meta?
That's a good question. I mean, it's the thing I was talking about that article. It sounded like there was going to be an episode, maybe there still is, I'm not sure, that explicitly tells us, oh, every episode of the Twilight Zone is like a metaverse. It's like the MCU, and you jump into a different universe every week, which you kind of do. So
I mean, that's the definition of an anthology.
it is an anthology.
If you
No,
want
but
to
they made it,
overthink it, I guess you could say it's all different bubbles in the metaverse.
and that, Rod is some sort of connecting thread that runs through it all, right? Or Jordan or whoever the narrator of the
But
series
he's
is that
not. He
time.
died in 1975. That's kind of like a big speed bump to trying to push that narrative, I think, with this one, you know?
Yeah, I
It's
don't think it works. It's like, don't try to make the Twilight Zone its own multiverse or whatever. It's an anthology. Just let it be an anthology. Although we had several stories in this series so far that have kind of harkened back to other stories,
that's
particularly.
fine because I mean every Twilight Zone series has done that, so
Yeah,
you
the
can't
80s
fault
one
this one.
did some remakes too, as I recall. And so this one did
I
Nightmare
mean, this one really
20,000
only
Feet.
did one hard remake, which would have been the Nightmare at 30,000 Feet, and then they did quite a bit of reinvention for that one. Um, Otherwise, I would, yeah, and we've said like, oh, this episode feels a little bit like this one, or like a combination of a few old ones, but it doesn't seem like they're doing straight remakes except for the one, you know,
Hmm.
so far. I know there's one or two next season, but we're not remakes or sequels, I guess, or whatever. Um, the flaws that this season had is more like, oh, just the episode didn't work. Like I remember I keep bringing up 6 Degrees of Freedom, where I was like, the concept seems great, the design was great, and somehow that episode just didn't work. I don't know exactly where that one fell on its face, but
Well, another thing about this entire season is, in a very sort of reminiscent of Star Trek Lower Decks, is that it's filled with Easter eggs of props and things in the background and references to the original series. So that's like another argument that somehow everything's all connected, because these things kind of keep surfacing, like Whipple Electronics
yeah,
makes all the
to me
electronics
that's
throughout the
that's
show.
good. That's good fan service though, because if you're just watching the show and you don't have an eye out for it, it's not going to distract you. It's not going to change anything. Whereas if you do happen to notice and you're a big Twilight Zone fan, that's fun fan service. It doesn't, affect the story at all. I guess the weird thing about this episode is it seems like, oh yeah, our series has the Rod Serling seal of approval. See? But then again, he died in 1975. So no, no, it doesn't. You can't have that. It's
Well,
impossible.
maybe his daughter's seal of approval or something. I don't know exactly where they get the seal of approval from, other than
I don't know what her
it's a
take on this.
CBS property, which is now
Yeah, but
Paramount property.
this is specifically like it's Rod Serling giving a seal of approval and fan service. He's back in this weird, creepy way, and he's and I guess he's like a golem or something now. But
But he's not
that was
that Gollum. He's not Andy Serkis.
not golem, not golem.
Golem.
Golem, the we're trying to put a soul into a dead thing or something. I don't know.
Right, right.
But yeah, I just it was kind of that was kind of the weird take. Maybe I don't know. I'm like maybe Jordan Peele just should own the show a little more. It's like at my company where the boss changed a few years ago, right? And for about a year or two, like the new person in charge like wouldn't sit like at the proper desk or something. She like sit like where the guest would be or something. And then it's like it took her a year to like own the job, you know? So that's kind of what's like Jordan Peele. It's like well, one, as we keep mentioning, he is not the showrunner. It's made clear here. Hey, I need things written for me that I can read. I'm an actor here. I'm a narrator. You know,
Yeah,
which
I underscored that, and then didn't make it sound like he was the showrunner, like a
yeah,
lot of people seem to think of.
which
He is the
I think this one
showrunner,
was
which he
very good and
wasn't.
kind of like even though it's not real behind the scenes, right? It was dramatic or whatever, scripted. But
Oh yeah, yeah. Can we talk about the soundstage and how there's like apparently multiple productions happening on the same soundstage, which is not the way you do it. That's the point that's the whole point of having sound stages. You know, you have your Star Trek soundstage and those sets live there, and then you have your Twilight Zone soundstage and those sets live there. But it kind of becomes a moot point because she goes deep into the zone pretty quickly and ends in a totally surreal space, you know, that looks like her studio, but strange things are happening to her as the
yeah, I mean,
Blurry
if they
Man
really
comes
needed to
along.
push that, they forgot some of the obvious signifiers. Like at some point, someone needs to be walking an elephant by in the background. There needs to be like a cowboy inexplicably coming through at some point. I mean, a glass plane, a plate of glass being walked through. Let's not forget these things, if we're going to do it this way.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, the crew of that particular show is apparently like 50 people milling around in the background, but then later on, when things get weird, they all mysteriously vanish. It's like it went from lunchtime to midnight or something, and the whole place was spooky,
One thing that
including the
worked
set outside, including the lot outside the street set. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I thought did work kind of cool in this episode was how that happens. Like you only track it halfway through, which for more Star Trek references, it reminded me of the Next Generation episode "Remember Me," where people just keep vanishing from the Enterprise until it's
That was a
yeah.
good one.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a little bit of that vibe in here as everyone disappears and finally the phone goes out because if you remember the Star Trek, she's like, just start giving me Picard's stats in real time, right? And then it just stops. So that was kind of how the phone cutting out kind of felt to me like, oh, no, okay, she's alone in this weird bubble reality now. Uh,
Um, what else was I going to say about that? Yeah, you can kind of dismiss all of the oddities of how movie sets actually work by the fact that, you know, she shows up later in the middle of a production, which is where Jason Priestley, I confess it took me like three times to find him because you literally blink and you miss him. She
yeah,
runs
I
past
didn't
him.
I didn't catch.
He's the guy performing that other show that's being filmed strangely in the same studio that their
I
show's
just
being filmed
assumed I
in.
was never a 90210 fan, so I was like, didn't care, didn't notice. I
Well,
mean,
it took a
Seth
minute.
Seth Rogen obviously sticks out, in this one.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we should talk about Seth a little bit. He was great. I thought I was kind of getting into the story, the fake story, the what do
Although
you call
it's,
it? The bubble story that it was set in.
I also last week watched the new Muppet Show, which Seth Rogen, produced and appears in a bit, and I was like, man, that guy has aged in the past. There we go, we got some Muppets there. Seth Rogen has aged a lot in the past 6 years. I mean, so have I, but I was like, having watched the 2026 Muppet Show and the 2019 Twilight Zone pretty much back to back, I was like, whoa. I guess the
Yeah, it's kind
Fablemans
of
is like
weird
kind of
seeing
halfway
this
in
again,
there. Yeah.
seeing Seth somewhat younger and seeing Jason older than I'm used to seeing him, but still somewhat younger than I'm sure he is now because I haven't really kept track of him either.
This episode's kind of cucking Rogan, but that's okay because he cucked Paul Dano in the Fablemans. You ever see the Fablemans?
The Fablemans,
That's
no.
Spielberg's last movie. I mean, he has a new one coming out this year, but before that, it's kind of like his weirdly
Oh,
autobiographical film, and high recommend by the way. Seth Rogen in that movie, great.
cool. I haven't really tracked down Spielberg lately.
Okay,
That's awesome.
high recommend on that movie. Um, so the Blurryman concept is weird because it's a horror thing through 80 to 90% of the episode before it's supposed to be inspiring, which to I mean that's kind of a weird disconnect for me. Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
the prestige doesn't really work in this magic trick for me, I guess is what I'm
Well,
saying.
first she's made aware of him because he keeps showing up in the episodes, and we do get a that wall of screens toward the end where you can see him in every episode up to this one. I haven't go back and check all of them. I did look at the comedian, and he is
I
in
mean, I'm
that
sure
one.
they are there, but yeah.
I'm sure they are. That's why I didn't bother. But once
Maybe
she
they're not.
becomes
Maybe
aware
nobody
that
bothered.
once she's aware that he's existing and turning up, then he starts to turn up more and more often. And that's when things just kind of go bizarre. And yeah, it's very horror trope thing. Like she goes through that set where Jason was, and the craft service table just explodes, and nobody notices because apparently it's all performative for her benefit that she just gets terrified. So why is he going around terrifying her when it gets to the point that she finally faces her fears? Is that the point? She has some sort of fear and she has to be scared into believing something. I don't
I
know.
mean,
Her
I mean,
inner
I
voice
guess.
keeps interrupt. She's got this inner voice too that keeps interrupting her and tries to tell her what to do. So she's actually being hit by both sides, externally and internally, as to uh, absorbing what's going on and accepting what's happening.
I mean, I guess it's an attempt to try and put out, writing jitters because hey, you're when you're doing the show. Let's just say I don't know how old Alex Rubens is. I didn't look up the age, but let's just spit guess he's 35, 40. Obviously not involved with the original show. So, for writing Trek, for writing this, for writing any big, reboot of a popular thing, I guess you do feel a burden and a bit of imposter syndrome trying to do it, right? So you
Hmm.
could take I can see where you write this episode and you're like, oh, it's a metaphor of someone dealing with the fact that they're writing this iconic thing and then coming to terms with it and doing it, It's inspiring. Look at the season we just gave you. Merry Christmas in April and May.
Well, another thing about this episode I just remembered is that this is not the first time it's gone meta. There was a uh, 80s Twilight Zone that had a similar premise. I'm
We'll be
trying to
hitting
look it
that one
up here
eventually. That's at
really.
the
We
center of our
will be hitting it.
vortex.
Yeah, I know it's
So,
in the center of the vortex. Um, I will. Okay, we'll save it as spoiler for another time. Maybe I'll be back for that one. I don't know, but it's
mm.
something to do with a writer that is trying to exercise his demons. It's not quite as meta as this. It's not the Twilight Zone, but well, maybe it. Well, no, no, we'll find out when we
Well, we
get
got the
there.
film version of that sort of thing. What Stranger in Fiction with Will Ferrell. You've got adaptation with Nick Cage, right? Doing
Yeah,
the writing as an act of metafiction sort of thing, which I guess is technically this is the more horror version compared to those two, but I think it kind of fits in. Yeah.
I
Um,
was reminded of what was it? Uh, the ABC series Once Upon a Time, where the author of their world becomes one of the characters in the show later in its run.
we did have Snow White here, what, like a week ago?
Yeah, yeah, she was in Point of Origin. That's what kind of maybe reminded me of it. It's like, oh yeah, sure.
But I guess the other one that this made me think of was it the first Matt Smith season of Doctor Who, which had the whole bad wolf thing going on? Or was it the first season?
I thought we were out of that because the Bad Wolf thing was
Maybe that was the first
well, that
season
was
of the new
Christopher
version.
Eccleston.
Was that the
It
Eccleston
kind
season? Okay. The whole Blurryman thing does make me think a little bit of that. Like, you didn't notice all the little hints through the first 9 episodes, and now they're all coming together, but in a mildly incongruous way, I think. Uh, Also,
I think that
10:15.
happened.
Did
Yeah.
10:15 have any importance in this episode? Because we keep noticing that 10:15 through these episodes, and this one didn't really respond to that, did it?
Oh, like the Star Trek 47 or whatever
Okay, maybe it is
number
just
that
like a
shows up
maybe
everywhere.
maybe it is just the 47. Okay. I kind of came in because I've had multiple guests mention seeing 10:15. Like I don't even notice it so much, but I was like, "Oh, well
I
Blurryman's going to have to address that." And it didn't, I think.
Yeah, what did it address? I mean,
Well,
none
addressed
of the
having
others
the
plot
blurry men
lines
on the
actually
shots.
none of the plot lines of the previous 9 episodes really factor into this one. It's
And
just
they
the
shouldn't.
existence of
That
the
would have been
blurry
annoying.
man. Yeah. And that's what I thought was going to happen in a way, but it didn't. But so
Yeah, you
yeah,
can't
but I
really
haven't
have
been
a
tracking 10,
season.
15.
I mean, on a serialized show, you can have a season finale that wraps things up, even if, we don't always like how that happens, but we assume a series season finale is going to wrap things up. Whereas one, there's no reason for the Twilight Zone to do that, and I guess it doesn't really make sense if it tries to do that.
Yeah. I had a bunch of notes about other ridiculous things that I noticed throughout, like the uh the wall of cereal that Blurry Man knocks down in the I guess it's a supermarket set. Did you look at this like the labels on the cereal,
I
like
think I
different
did, but
flavors?
if you want to shout them out again, what'd you get?
I The only one I got really clearly was the one that she was closest to, and it was a cereal flavor. It's called Jungle Munch.
that
I want to
that
know
makes me
what flavor is Jungle Munch?
that makes me think a little bit of the do you know a Mega Mart in Las Vegas? It's a
Oh,
art
that's an art
installation.
thing. Yeah. Oh,
And
I've
when you
heard of
go
that. I
in,
want to see that.
it just looks like a supermarket, and all the products are bizarre, right? And you can like buy the boxes or whatever, but you start opening like freezers and things, and there's like back tunnels, and it turns into this like insane surrealistic art installation. But yeah, the facade is a supermarket. So
What did you think of the cue cards lying around that kept having more narration on them
that's
later
cool,
on in
creepy
the
stuff. I
episode?
like that sort of thing. Yeah, that is up my alley. That's I really like. I really feel like this episode should have pushed the horror element like to its proper conclusion. I mean, we don't. Sophie can come out okay in the end or whatever, but I just feel like we need to press the horror button properly and not try and like pivot to this weird like it's inspirational thing that threw me off. So the
Well, my
cards
note
fit
on
in.
that was just that I was wondering if cue cards are even really still a thing. It serves a plot point here, but I figure a lot of cue cards these days are probably just screens.
No,
Even in
I
2019. I don't know, but I guess it's still easier to do it that way.
it did make me think. It happened this morning actually. Just about I woke up about an hour and a half ago, and it happened this morning where there's something I want to check out, right? Um, and I'll check it in my dream, and then get up and walk around for 30 minutes. Wait a minute, that was not the correct information. If you checked the dream phone, that wasn't that you needed to check the real phone. Uh,
You
time
actually
wise
seem to
though,
live in a dream world sometimes, Matt. I
yeah.
notice you keep talking about things you've dreamt about, and
Yeah.
then
Well,
it
my
turns out not to
yeah.
be
At the
what
same
you
time,
think
though,
they are.
my internal chronometer seems to be ticking extremely correctly because I will just wake up and without looking at the clock, I usually know what time it is within 10 minutes.
I kind of have that ability sometimes, although today it failed me. I thought it was 2 when I woke up and it was noon, which I was glad to hear because I left
Yeah.
me some time to do a few things before coming to here.
There you go.
I
I
still
mean,
have
yeah,
some other things to do.
like, but yeah, like this morning, I woke up briefly, like just before 5 a.m., and I was like, oh, it must be about 4:55. And I look, it's like 4:59. I'm like, okay, cool. Went back to sleep.
What
Let's
did you
see.
think about her inner dialogue constantly interrupting her?
Oh, well, I like when she shouts, "Why am I talking to myself into an empty room?" That's always fun. That's always a plus in any TV or movie. You know,
Well, is it like one of
that's
those
the
things where
you talking to
it's
me.
a mechanism to make us think that the character is like slowly losing their mind or having a
I
problem?
think so. How much do I don't think I talk to myself much. I mean, in my again internal dialogue, but usually, if I'm vocalizing when no one's around, I'm probably singing like some really stupid song or of gibberish. That's more likely than me talking to myself.
I think it's just one of those things where it she has to talk to herself so the audience knows her inner state of mind. It's just the way it is. I mean, it goes all the way back to where is everybody? And Earl Holliman talking to himself.
Oh yeah, they put quite a bit of stock into this, and that she's like trying to run from the Blurryman or something on a basically a busted ankle, and then at some point in the show, the ankle seems fine again. So, and maybe she just needed to walk it off. I don't know. But I was like, I feel like you have to continuity kind of slipped up a bit there in a way that healed the ankle and did not hurt it.
Hmm. Or did she break her ankle? Did she hurt her ankle? Was it all just a dream she
That
had?
might have been what they were going for, but it's not completely clear. So this episode does kind of like I guess just blurry man out in the end, you know. So,
Her whole journey is kind of blurry because we're not really sure what reality she's in moment to moment,
right.
except towards the very end where things were getting really strange. And then, of
And
course, there's a
me,
shout out to Time Enough
no.
at last.
Oh,
That
yes,
whole
yes, yes. Um, and another, I mean, I guess I'm throwing this episode a little bit under the bus, but the whole time there's like, oh, there's a nuclear apocalypse story with starring Seth Rogen, which I'd probably rather be watching.
that's what I said. I was kind of liking where that one was going. It's like, oh, okay, so another, um, somebody can manipulate reality through the power of something like,
Right, but instead
be it
we go,
writing or whatever. Yeah, but we
instead
don't
it
get
just
this.
becomes a slasher flick until it isn't, you know? But yeah, the elephant in the room or the Rod Serling in the room is Uncanny Valley. Rod Serling required three, four actors if you count the blurry version. Why didn't they just let the body be the blurry guy too? That I don't get that. But there's been conversations in our circles about what is good fan service, what is bad service, bad fan service. I
Hmm.
was not into this fan service.
I think from what I've gathered, a lot of people didn't really
Uh,
think that was good fan service generally out there in
mm.
the world. From the few things I've seen, they're kind
Now
of
the
like, why do we do this? And so,
Yeah, the one that came to mind of recent vintage is season two Mandalorian closer, where Luke Skywalker shows up trying to look like 1983, right?
Hmm.
That one didn't bug me as much. Maybe because he did stuff that seemed Luke Skywalkery, and they were, relatively sparse with the face shots. A lot of it's
And
like
Mark
Benjamin.
Hamill was there. He was
Mark
actually
Hamill was there.
partaking.
That helped. So at least you
Hmm.
do have the proper, seal of approval there. So that one didn't bug me as much. What else? Harrison Ford, just trying to be 40 years old in Dial of Destiny. That's the kind of thing where you watch it and you're like, oh, they did a really good job. But the fact that you're saying they did a really good job means you're still noticing it.
We can't help but notice it because you know in reality that's not the person. But a lot of people have mentioned the fact that if this episode had been shot today, they would have just, used an AI and probably nailed the Serling perfectly or nearly perfectly, much further out of the uncanny valley than this was or any of the
Would
examples
that
we
be
just
deeper
mentioned.
though? I mean, I think all of us are getting more and more of a spidey sense for AI stuff.
Yeah, yeah, but I think the face they did, I think, well, first it doesn't sound like they CGI'd it at all. It sounded like they got an actor to portray the face, one of the many actors in this, just to do the face, and then
Yeah.
another
Oh,
one to do the
yeah.
voice. Yeah,
See, the problem
and
there is at
so
that point now you are digitally putting the face onto the other guy's body. So at that point you might as well have just done it digitally in the first place, right? You're losing the point of using people at that point because you're CGing it anyway.
I think maybe they were a little gun shy of using um, that kind of morphing I wouldn't call it AI because this was last decade, but that kind of CGI because I think people were already kind of rebelling against it, to coin a phrase, in Rogue One from Tarkin and Leia, which didn't come over very clearly, and they probably thought, let's just take it a different angle at this
But
just
then
to
in the
make
end,
it
that's
stand
my
out.
point. In the end, it still is the equivalent of doing the CG angle
It's
because
still
you had three
uncanny
people
valley,
doing
yeah.
it. Like
It's just
I'm
that
trying.
it's joke more. It's worse uncanny valley than better. I don't know
I'm sitting here
how you're
thinking the
going to
movie
divide this in
Ed
different
Wood,
layers
where
of.
Martin Landau looks nothing like Bela Lugosi, right? So you
No,
just
but he practiced the facial muscles. He did the expressions. He tried to sell it, and it worked pretty well. Just
I'm gonna go better. I think you were starting to try and defend him, but I was going to be like, no, that was like a master class of a impersonation. Also in that movie, we get the Orson Welles where they did feel the need to find someone else to do the voice, which
it was a
who
Maurice
was it?
LaMarche from Pinky and the Brain. He does that Orson Welles
Right,
voice.
right. But then the body is it D'Onofrio doing the who is it in Ed Wood doing the on camera work for that one? I'm gonna have to
Oh,
check.
D'Onofrio,
Is it D'Onofrio?
Kingpin, Dap D'Onofrio.
Yeah, yeah, that's D'Onofrio. I can't remember. I think he plays the play, and he did like on set he did the voice, and kind of felt bad later, I guess, about not doing it. Oh, I'm looking at the man, not the film for Ed Wood.
Yeah,
Just
he was just in the current sci-fi series on FX
Yeah, yeah, okay.
very
D'Onofrio was
briefly.
Orson Welles, but then yeah, Maurice LaMarche did the voice, like you said. Just yeah,
Hmm.
just wanted to confirm, so I'm not saying things that are incorrect on a
So
live
you think it's funny that
podcast.
they did it one way in with Landau, but then they felt they needed to do a voice.
Well, no, I'm just saying in Ed Wood, both of those impersonations
Yeah.
come out aces, right?
Hmm.
And both of them have like in one case the guy didn't look right, in one case the guy didn't sound right, and they just do the one fix. Where in this one it never quite Serling's enough. Even the body guy, I'm like he doesn't feel like he doesn't move the same way. It's like why is there one guy hired for the body if he's not even quite moving right?
Yeah, I don't even know if it was the right body type because Serling was short, but not really thin. He was somewhere kind of
He just
his
has that
proportions. His
jittery. I'm
proportions were a little weird, but yeah, he's animated in his own way through all those cigarettes,
And the way he moves, the way actual
all that
Serling moves, it's
nicotine.
always like he's trying to like kind of fit into his body a little bit. Like it doesn't quite fit. We've talked about all the narrations here with Jordan Peele, not in this episode, but in all the other ones. His narration seems like a man who's trying to hide his raw terror, you know? Where
Yeah,
Serling, it
I've
always
heard
seems
those
like he's
observations. I
and
like
yeah,
that.
and here Serling always felt like he's kind of coming from the Twilight Zone to tell you a bit about it. And this episode really pushes that button, which does make sense. But the execution I found a little lacking. Unfortunately, this episode pretty much entirely relies on how you feel about the execution of that.
Hmm. So I thought it was funny. You mentioned Jordan kind of sounded like he was at gunpoint. You know, he acts like he's at gunpoint. Like, no, everything's perfectly fine. I'm just telling you what's going on.
I
It's
like
not
that.
right.
Yeah, see, I like that. Yeah. So it's almost like they need this episode tries to go back on the things that really did work in the earlier episodes, you know? Like the difference in narration to me did work. That's a place where you don't need to be completely beholden to the original Twilight Zone. We can have this guy have a slightly different vibe. I guess I'll start
Well,
throwing some questions on this episode.
oh, I was
Uh,
going to say, Sophie kind of already did that at the beginning of the story when she was talking about what is the Twilight Zone. I got that strong sort of uh, Matt's questions about the Twilight Zone being asked in the Twilight Zone. Like, what is
yeah,
it?
I guess the whole thing with this episode. Oh, there needs to be a Serling connection. I'm like, folks, we had two complete series of the Twilight Zone with zero Serling connection. Putting an image of him in the opening credits like they did with the '80s, that doesn't really count, you know. But yes,
So,
those questions, I
do
guess.
the questions.
Who in this episode goes in or through the Twilight Zone?
Everybody.
Everybody? Okay, I was just gonna go Sophie because she's just walking off into the Twilight Zone in the end. I don't know if Jason Priestley or Seth Rogen really had anything other than, something weird might have happened. Did they get influenced? Did they vanish into the Twilight Zone? Is it the cornfield?
No, you're right. I mean, Sophie is the obvious choice there, but um, it seems like they're going to notice her suddenly disappearing if she's truly gone, never to come write another episode. They'll just think she walked off the set one day and never returned, which I suppose is the epilogue of every Twilight Zone. They'll be like, "What happened to so and so? Where did they go?"
Also, wait a minute. She's justified to write the episodes now by vanishing from the Earth into the Twilight Zone. Is that how I'm reading the end of this?
Yeah, why does she get to go into the Twilight Zone for forever or whatever? What's her purpose going to be there? And why doesn't a lot of other people, we don't know how many people Blurryman visits. You know, he could be like St. Nicholas, just pop in on somebody and say, "Hooray, here you are. We're going to take you to the Twilight Zone." But again, getting there was just so strange. It's like, I'm going to first, terrify you and make you scared, and then I'm going to invite you into the Twilight Zone. It's like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I guess spectral Twilight Zone Rod Serling is kind of an a-hole, is what this episode is telling us. This guy sucks.
And is Forrest Whitaker there too? And, all the other hosts.
Yeah, yeah.
I forget the
I don't
80s
know.
host was just a voice. He wasn't a physical person, but yeah.
Let's go ahead and well, did Sophie? I guess we'll put it on Sophie. Does Sophie deserve her trip into the Twilight Zone?
Well, they're kind of painting it like it's her manifest destiny being a fan of the show and therefore became a writer of the show, and that she's ascending to being part of the
The tw
show.
the actual Twilight Zone?
The she's
She
she's going
ascends
into
to
the Valhalla that is the Twilight Zone.
yeah. I mean, the Twilight Zone
So,
isn't supposed to be heaven. The Twilight Zone's supposed to be weird, you know? It's probably better to avoid the Twilight Zone.
well, let's think back.
Not the show, the place.
She's getting a lot of phone calls from, I presume, her girlfriend or something, her wife, throughout the story, like when you coming home, sort of
Right,
things.
that's when it
Maybe.
cuts out. That's like the last person she's interacting with when it
No, but I'm
cuts
talking
out,
about
right?
her life on this earthly plane. Maybe she wasn't happy.
Mm.
Maybe, maybe other fact. We don't get too much background on her, but maybe she was one of those people who just would never fit in or had too much, drama in their lives. They felt the need to escape to another, you know, to Willoughby. We're gonna go to Willoughby. So
But
I kind of
Willoughby's such
wondered
a
if she
is
deserved
Willoughby
it.
evil, right? Where here it's like he's been evil the whole episode, and now he's taking you to a weird kind of heaven. Willoughby, at least, like you don't know what. Even having watched that episode 10 times, I don't know what Willoughby is. You know? Willoughby's unknowable, which this in this episode is trying to do a tight walk between knowable and something you appreciate.
I would have I might have appreciated a little bit more if he actually did take her to Willoughby.
We're going to Willoughby. Yes.
But then that
Uh,
implies her body is lying dead somewhere on the soundstage because she's dead.
let's go ahead and throw this on the tripometer. You want to throw that out there first?
Oh,
I mean, I have a number if you want me to spit mine out first.
it wouldn't be that high because I don't know. Did you? It, I don't really
My
went
number's
into this
maybe higher than yours. I'm going
spoiler free
3.5. Okay, well, three, okay,
2.5,
right. 3.5 for me because a lot of trippy stuff.
3.5.
There is a lot of
Yeah,
trippy stuff.
okay.
Yeah, there is a lot of trippy stuff in this episode. Like the whole Blurryman thing is trippy, but it is kind of like like a Boy Scout campfire ghost story where it doesn't really actually make sense. It's sound and fury signifying nothing. That's what I'm calling this episode. But it's still trippy sound and
Yeah,
fury. Sound and fury can be trippy.
I didn't find it that trippy, but then again, I think there was the spoiler factor because it's an old thing, and so I kind of knew what was coming at some level. I'm sure I heard about the plot. So I
Yeah, I did
wasn't
come in. I've been greatly unspoiled on this, but yes, I did come in knowing that yes, the blurry man is Serling. It's kind of hard if you're doing any research about the show. It's kind of hard to miss that.
yeah, so we can't really give it the true first unvarnished impression of the
But
episode that
if
we would
that
like to
was
have
my
given it.
unvarnished impression, I think I might have been more pissed at this episode. I knew it was coming, so I'm like, okay, I knew this was happening. If I didn't know, I think I really would have been infuriated watching this episode.
I think that sort of feeling's been compounded over the years on like Star Trek, where it's like the newer Star Treks feel like every episode has to have some direct reference to another episode of Star Trek in the past.
Right, I have found, and then of course, even Peel Twilight Zone, you can just jump in and watch one. It doesn't matter if there's a 10:15 or a blurry man in the background. You can just watch
Hmm.
these discreetly, which is nice. Which when I'm in the urge just to put on some Star Trek, it's going to be an episode from 2005 or earlier, right? Maybe Lower Decks, but yeah, I'm just like I can't jump right into the middle of something. I just want to watch an episode of TV. Um,
I don't think it was so. I think it was fun dropping Blurry Man into the other episodes. I don't know how far in advance they did that, or it was all done CGI after the fact, or did they actually film every episode with
I
him
don't
in there?
know. I did like that. I like that touch. I'm just like I feel like the end result was pointless and mildly stupid.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you, which is why I'm not thinking it's that trippy. I think trippy needs to have an impact, and if it doesn't really leave an impact,
I
then it's
guess in
not
a
that
way that
trippy.
I would call it a supernatural slasher film, like like an Elm Street, or if you want to get real niche, go a movie like Popcorn or something. Just like weird, trippy horror sort of stuff. Like I give a score to that. So Nightmare on Elm Street films would get real relatively good scores on the tripometer for me.
Well, do they have more narrative logic than this episode?
What does it
I mean,
depends on
does it
which
kind
Elm
of
Street
make
you're
sense?
watching.
Again, you can kind of hand wave away a lot of the weirdness because it's the Twilight Zone, so she's just going into a weird realm where,
But I
you know,
think the Twilight Zone usually
everything's empty
promises
and
you a good backbone to the weirdness. If I just like that was the
hmm
60s thing. If I just want weird crap, I'd watch Outer Limits, right? The Twilight Zone always had to have some kind of oh Henry, like oh yeah, sort of thing. And Blurry Man and several episodes this season have had very good ones. But this episode just it yeah, it barely makes sense. I don't think another pass of the script would have solved that because of the intention of the script.
yeah, the script did really come from let's pay an homage angle rather than let's tell a good story angle. So,
Yeah, like I do think this is probably my least favorite of the season, followed by probably 1 degree of not 6 degrees of freedom. Yeah, because that
yeah,
one,
that one
but
was
that one,
weird.
as I said, is different because that one had potential. Where I think it really could have been a great episode, and they just kind of squandered
Had a
it somehow.
budget too. They built a really cool set.
Right, that
Never
one had
really
so much
quite
going
understood
for
how the aliens. I know we're talking about another episode now. That's not good.
it.
How the aliens manipulated them.
That's unclear crap. That's blurry man stuff, right? I did. Well, I'm also saying that's my second least favorite of the season. So sure, we can throw that under the bus as well. How about you? We're at the end of season one. You want to throw out a few? I guess we'll go least. We'll start negative. Least favorite.
Oh, let's see. I'll have to pull up the list again just to know what they are. 2000s. That's not Twilight Zone. I did have a list of Twilight
I can
Zones.
shout out titles. That might be good for the listener as well. If I just shout out all the titles real quick. We have The Comedian, Nightmare at 30,000 Feet, Replay, A Traveler, The Wunderkind, 6 Degrees of Freedom, Not All Men, Point of Origin, The Blue Scorpion, and Blurryman.
Well,
So,
Comedian was interesting, but as I believe you noticed, it was probably not deserving of really long airtime. It was
yeah,
kind
some
of
editing scissors on that would have been a big plus.
30,000 feet was not was like a different source of paranoia while on a plane, not the more tangible one of there's a monster on the wing. So it was okay, I guess. And it was nice to see Adam Scott after
Yeah,
just
yeah.
watching Severance. Um, was it Replay? Replay was pretty good. I think most people agree Replay was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I
Although
think I
I'm
think
not,
that's my season favorite to be honest. That's one I've actually seen multiple times. Like that is a Twilight Zone where I will occasionally revisit it. Uh,
it
which
was weird. The sheriff was kind of just this force of evil that was going to find a way to mess with her no matter what she did. And they never really explicitly say that he's like some sort of entity or anything. It's just like, but I guess the idea is that he
that's
represents all racism.
that's ambiguity that I think kind of works a little better than say Blurryman though. So I
Yeah,
was that element that's mysterious in a way that makes you, huh? Is he just like racism, encapsulated or what? So
it
uh,
just his relentlessness made you think that he definitely had some agenda across different timelines because they keep resetting the timeline and he keeps on coming. So it's just kind of that was the creepiest thing about him. And the actor was pretty good in that role, I thought.
yeah. um,
Um,
a
what was the next one?
traveler, a
A
traveler.
traveler. I didn't see where that one was going. It was kind of like I'm an alien and I know all these things, but then I'm not an alien. But then again, I'm going to invade you, but we're not going to invade.
I, I
It's like
thought I thought Stephen Ewan, I'm not sure if I'm saying the name right, but
Stephen
he was
Ewing.
great in that. I definitely remember him from that episode. Like he resonates, and of course Greg Kinnear is fun to see in there
That
as
may have
well.
been the
But
last original run. Last one I saw in its original run before I got distracted by other things. So,
mm.
because I
So
don't
some
remember
of
the
these are
ones
like the
after that.
Wunderkind I enjoyed quite well, but that's also because I like John Cho and I got to see John Larroquette, so that helped out a lot. Um,
That involved you swallowing a huge pill of disbelief in that a child would be eligible to run for president of the United States. That
remember, the
made no
mother
sense.
was actually elected president. He was just in charge. They
Oh, is
did
that how they
address
did
it.
it?
They addressed it in maybe a dumb way, but they did address that the mother was technically the president. But
Oh, I somehow missed that. It's like, well, why would anybody be even floating this idea of having a kid run things, whether he technically was president or
but
not?
the
It's just
parents are so in on it. Mom is just like, "Yes, you are in charge, son," even though she actually has the technical power. There is a line or two in that episode to address that.
I
So
must have blinked and missed it.
might
I
be
was just
dumb, but yeah, 6 degrees
the
of freedom.
premise
Talk about
seemed so dumb I couldn't get it. Yeah, 6 degrees. I guess the ship at one point entered a giant like Death Star environment that they looked like the inside looked like space, but it wasn't. So they could manipulate the ship because they
yeah. In
suddenly
the
show
end,
up on Mars, and so apparently they did get there, but a lot
like
of
in the
weird
end,
things
I just
happened.
don't feel like working it all out. Like I don't care enough to
It
work all that
wasn't
out.
it wasn't worth the effort to try to headcanon it, right?
Not All Men, it was probably my second favorite of the season because that one just had the nice, like paranoia, people running in the streets sort of thing, energy,
Yeah, it
which
was
I
sort of a
enjoy.
Maple Street redo in a way, but
But I would not call it a remake of Maple Street at all.
no, but
But
it's kind of like external force shows up and then people behave strangely on their own accord. But that it
but
kind
that
of
one makes it
washed
clear
over
at
the.
the end the external force was not doing it. Some guy went nuts and everyone else started using it as an
It
excuse.
was a mass hysteria, yeah,
Yeah. So
situation. But what was weird is the red herring they kept throwing is that the the meteors, which were lying all over town apparently, they did act strangely. They did make water glow and do weird things that led you to believe they did have some sort of a weird effect on people. And to the point where, what was the men jumping into the fountain and pouring rocks into it? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna splash around in this meteor water for But the fact that we saw the glowing and stuff is like just a big misdirect if the rocks really were not affecting people. So that kind of spoiled it a little for me. But it was nice to see, Ray Seahorn again.
Yeah. Point of Origin, the Blue Scorpion, those seem kind of like just average for me. Like they had things they didn't quite they didn't set me on fire, you know?
Yeah, Point of Origin, far more timely today than it was 7 years ago.
Although I guess you listened to the episode where it's like, well, actually, it's kind of a milk toast version of it from
hmm
7 years ago, right? We get the much more extra strength version now, so the it makes the episode seem like it's pulling punches, even though in 2019 it wasn't, you know?
Blue Scorpion was just like another cursed object that, somebody gets hold of and
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of
starts doing
boilerplate
bad things.
Twilight Zone,
Yeah,
made
so
reasonably well, good
it
actor,
was
you know?
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but not very
Chris
memorable.
O'Dowd, I think. Yeah, he's always
I did say
fun
we
to
did
watch.
Point of Origin last week, which means I completely forgot that Blue Scorpion existed when we were having that conversation 20 minutes ago. So that doesn't bode well for me putting it high. But yeah, I guess for me it's a replay and Not All Men are kind of the bangers. And maybe I'll put the Wonder Kid for a runners up would be my ranking for this season.
Another episode that was extremely prescient about having a childlike person running the country. A
Exactly.
person with no filters, a person who has bad instincts and bad intentions running the United States.
That must be an 11-year-old, of course.
Yeah, well, or less.
Uh, you have any other thoughts you want to throw out? I pretty much threw the whole season in your face, so I guess you can take it from that
Well, thank you for
perspective.
doing that wrap-up episode encapsulated in this episode, because normally we would have stopped and done a wrap-up episode next, right?
Uh,
You'll probably do one at the end of the series because it's so
Maybe at the
short.
end of the series, yeah. But no, well, that's the thing when we did the wrap ups for the original show, like all of us had seen them once, maybe twice, maybe 12 times, you know. Whereas this one,
hmm
it's kind of hard to get a pool of people that are like intimately familiar with it, just because the show, for better or for worse, wasn't that successful, you know.
Well, I did make the effort. Like I said, I got all the physical media I could to make sure I could watch
No,
this
that's why I was sitting
show.
here asking you. I'm like, hey, you're here, you're right now. You have seen all of these, so let's do it now. So that's what we did. Uh,
Would have probably helped to have watched them through twice. I haven't had the time to watch every episode twice, so
think I've seen most of these twice at this point, so it is easier to do it with a TV show than a movie, of course, you know. So,
yeah.
speaking of movies, TV shows, I guess I'll point people over to other podcasts that we do, of course. Rate, review, Time Enough podcast, as you will. Hopefully, that's a good rating. Films and Filth, Brian. Sometimes you're there. We were just finishing up talking about all the Fast and the Furious movies, and then we'll get back to our list of highly rated and lowly rated movies on Internet Movie Database. There is a caught Disney. We do all the Disney. We've been doing some anime there recently. If you want to hear weird, bizarre theories on media, Luke loves Pokemon, that sort of stuff. Okay, I guess I'm
And don't forget
spreading my
podcast
words.
1999, where
I
you're
knew I was
talking about
forgetting
Planet of
something.
the Apes.
We just yeah, one more episode that to record. So
Oh, was that the one I'm supposed to be in? I don't remember.
I think you can if you want to. Okay, there, sure. Invite live on air invite.
Oh,
You can
okay.
have it.
I
It's
haven't
yours.
watched any of those animated ones, I'm afraid. Nor do I have memories of them from childhood like I did the live action one the year before, was it?
Yeah.
75.
Oh, 9 months before. The turnaround was insane. But
Wow.
took them much longer to make season one of the 2019 Twilight Zone.
All right. Well, maybe I'll come back for that. Maybe I'll come back for something next season of this show. If you have an opening, I will.
I'm making it happen. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this recording and I'll ask you about that actually. Let's see.